oh boy, I sure can't wait to try all of this stuff out. Hey, what's up? I've got new stuff from Zowie. So I've gotten the DW series of Zowie mice, which are basically the highest end gaming mice from Zowie that you can currently buy. So we got the ZA13-DW, the U2-DW, the S2-DW, and the FK2-DW. The main goal of Zowie is that you get the perfect shape that is catered to your playstyle and your hand size. You see, the reason why Zowie releases so many different mice with different shapes at the same time is because they really care about you getting the perfect shape that is catered to your hand grip, to your hand size, and your playstyle. Because when you look at professional sports athletes, for example, they use different kinds of shoes when they play football, for example. Like, they don't use the same brand, they don't have the same shoe size, all of them. And it's basically similar when it comes to gaming mice. Because your hand size, combined with the fact that everyone grips their mouse differently, because there's claw grip, there's fingertip grip, there's palm grip, and all sorts of other variations, that combined with your hand size and the games you play, because you play differently when you play a tag shooter compared to like arena type shooters or like very fast paced shooters. There are different like aiming styles, and that is something that the Zowie mice also accommodates with their certain shapes. I mean, there's a good reason why people in the esports scene still say that shape is king when it comes to gaming mice. So yeah, thanks again for Zowie for sponsoring this video, and the first mouse we're going to talk about is actually a mouse that has been my second gaming mouse that I've ever purchased, which is the Zowie FK2-DW. You see, the second gaming mouse that I've ever purchased was the Zowie FK2, the wired version, like the really old one with a 3310 sensor. And back in the day when I did not know as much about gaming mice and what makes good gaming mice compared to bad ones, and that I did not have a lot of gaming mice, I always thought that Zowie mice are like still really good because of their build quality and the way the clicks feel and such. It was just a very well built around mouse, and the shape was just so nice. And that statement still upholds itself in 2025 because the build quality as well as the clicks are still insanely nice. You see, for example, the coding is much better on the newer wireless Zowie mice compared to the old wired ones. The coding is actually not that great on the old Zowie mice, like there was a lot of sweat building up and a lot of gunk, and the mouse got slippery like very fast when you held the mouse for like a longer period of time. And obviously you don't want the grip on your mouse to get unstable and you like slip off, so you want a good coating. And that is exactly what you get from the new DW mice, because the coating is like really nice. And after playing a few hours consecutively, I had no issues with the coating when it comes to like the grip or sweat building up and such. That just did not happen, and it's really, really good. And the build quality when it comes to like the rigidness of the shape and in itself, like this thing does not creak. It does not creak at all, not even the slightest. It doesn't rattle. It's extremely sturdy, and it feels super high premium in your hand. And when you have used a DW mouse compared to the older Zowie mice, you will immediately feel how much better the clicks actually are. Because the Huano Blue Shell switches on older Zowie mice were very tactile and very like clicky, but it was actually a bit hard to actuate, and spamming the clicks was kind of hard actually. And the clicks on the DW mice are much easier to actuate, they're a lot easier to spam, and they still have that sort of like unique tactility that the older Zowie mice had, but it's not as harsh anymore. Like you can just spam it easier, like the tension is less. But even though these new clicks are spammier and easier to click, the build quality of the clicks of itself did not take a hit because of that. Because there's basically very little to no side play when you click on the clicks. Like you cannot move the clicks very much to the left and right, and also because of the coding, your grip is basically locked, and when you basically slightly play with your fingers, you will not move the clicks very much to the left and right. They're basically stuck there. Pre and post travel of the clicks are also very defined, like there's basically no pre-travel and only very slightly post travel, but you want a little bit of post travel so the click doesn't feel a bit awkward. Like it's like a very, it's not a sharp click, it's a very like balanced and well thought out click. And the same things apply for the scroll wheel as well. The scroll wheel feels super solid, the steps are very defined, it is not rattly at all, and I did not have any sort of scroll wheel skips that I have with like cheaper mice where some sort of like scroll wheel input does not fully go through even though you like use scroll wheel. That does not happen. Like every step is very well defined and they basically get actuated with no problem. And also the scroll wheel click, really good, no problems at all, very easy to spam, and yeah. And also the rubbering on the scroll wheel feels nice on your hand, it's not slippery, and it's not like abrasive or anything. To the side buttons, unfortunately, I cannot say much because I don't use side buttons when I game, and the main reason is because I actually play left-handed. But that is no problem with the Zowie mice mostly because most of them are symmetrical, so they are not like a right-handed version, so you can use them as a left-handed person, you just don't have these side buttons where your thumb is, basically. But the way I grip my mice, which is basically relaxed claw grip to fingertip grip, I do not really touch these side buttons, so they don't bother me at all. The mouse skates on the DW mice are also improved. They use 100% PTFE skates. They're not the highest quality skates that I've used so far, but they basically do the job very well. They're not very thick, but also not very thin. And the corners of the skates are slightly rounded, not too much rounded. Like there are basically skates that are really round where you basically feel, it almost feels like shaky when the skates are too round. They're just slightly rounded and basically a good middle ground between sharp edges and like rounded edges. And not only that, you get 100% PTFE skates and you get the old black Teflon skates that the older Zowie mice used, if you prefer that feeling compared to PTFE. The main difference is basically that Teflon skates feel a bit more controlled on cloth mouse pads compared to PTFE. They're slightly bit slower and could be more advantageous for people who play tech FPS like Counter-Strike and such. And now let's finally talk about the unique characteristics of the Zowie FK2-DW, which is the shape. Because all of the aspects I just told you about the Zowie mice, like the coding, the build quality, the clicks, they're basically all the same on all Zowie mice. And the Zowie FK2 is basically a very low profile mouse. Like the height is not that high. And that basically accommodates people who mainly use an aggressive claw grip when they use gaming mice or fingertip grip. The difference between an aggressive claw grip and a relaxed claw grip, for example, is the way you use your ring finger and your pinky. Aggressive claw grip is when those fingers are basically separated to another, like this. And a relaxed claw grip is when your pinky and ring finger are basically close to each other, where you don't like curl them up. So when you combine your ring finger and your pinky, you basically have a lot more strength against the mouse and against your thumb, because obviously your thumb is stronger when pressing versus your pinky. And if you have your ring finger to support it, you basically have a lot more control when aiming. But that does cost you movement when it comes to micro corrections, like very small, minute movements. That is going to be harder when you play relaxed claw grip compared to aggressive claw grip. A good rule of thumb is that aggressive claw grip is basically better for fast-paced shooter games where you have to like basically aim for a longer period of time and track and such. Relaxed claw grip is better for like tech FPS where you just hold one corner and you don't move your mouse a lot and you just want to hit that one perfect shot. And since the FK2 is very low profile, this shape is more accommodated to aggressive claw grip, because now you have a lot more space in between your palm and your fingers to do micro corrections, because the shape is very low profiled. And that can be also very nice for fingertip grip, where you don't want your palm to actually touch the shape of the mouse. So you have basically maximum range of motion. But if you have that, obviously your control will also lag because of it, because you don't have anything that your palm can rest on. Overall, if you have medium-sized hands, I have 18 by 9.5 centimeter hands, and you play aggressive claw grip or fingertip grip, I would basically lean you to use the Zowie FK2. Now that we've gotten the FK2 out of the way, let's continue with the Zowie S2. As you can see, the Zowie S2 right here is a bit shorter than the Zowie FK2 when it comes to length. And when you look at the height of the S2 is actually higher than the Zowie FK2. And when you look at the hump of these mice, these are also different. Like the hump in the FK2 is basically right dead centered in the middle. And on the S2, it's actually a bit flattened out and a bit further in the back. And when you combine that with the overall higher height, this mouse is more accommodated to people who purely use relaxed claw grip. Like I said, the ring finger and your pinky are close to each other and you have a lot more control. You can even go so far to almost use this mouse for like palm grip, where your palm actually like touches the mouse a lot. And yeah, if you hold your mouse like this, the Zowie S2 is basically the one to go. I mean, obviously you can still use aggressive claw grip on the Zowie S2 or like fingertip grip. It's not impossible. All I'm trying to say is that the shape is just not optimized for that. And it's mainly optimized for relaxed claw grip, in my opinion, all the way up to like palm grip. So yeah, if you want a bit of a shorter mouse, a bit of a higher mouse, a bit of a wider mouse that is accommodated for relaxed claw grip, go for the Zowie S2. Now talking about a mouse that actually looks very similar to the Zowie S2, which is the Zowie U2. Because at first glance, you would almost say that these mice are identical. The hump looks similar, the size looks similar, the width looks similar, but there are a lot of differences actually. First of all, the width of the Zowie U2 is actually a bit narrower all the way up to the front compared to the Zowie S2. And this more narrow width gives you basically a bit more range of motion for like micro corrections, as you can see like this. If the mouse would be wider, I would have less space to actually like move my fingers around. And to actually provide a more narrow mouse, they actually did not separate the clicks with this little part here in between, just like here in the Zowie S2. They did not do that for the Zowie U2. That does make it so the clicks actually have a bit more side play when you don't have this like part in between, like the clicks move a bit side to side, but that is nothing that I have experienced when actually using the mouse actively in game. And when you really look closely, the Zowie U2 is actually a bit longer than the Zowie S2. And also the backside of the U2 is a bit wider than the S2, which gives a bit more space for your palm to rest on when you do aggressive claw grip. One thing that I do have to point out is that the Zowie U2 is actually not a fully symmetrical mouse. Because the side where your side buttons are, this Zowie U2 does not have side buttons. I think I've gotten like a prototype version which does not have side buttons. I don't mind it because I'm left-handed, but what I'm trying to say is that even though if this mouse would have side buttons, this mouse is still not symmetrical because there's a very deliberate groove below where the side buttons would be that goes deeper into the mouse than the other side. Like this side is a bit more flat and this one goes a bit more into the mouse. And I would assume that this deeper groove does give you a lot more control with your thumb if you basically lift up the mouse a lot and put it all the way down. Like if you would hold on a flat side, then I think you would lose a lot more grip when you basically use the mouse. So if you want a slightly deeper thumb groove and a higher profile to like grip on and a slightly narrower side up on the front, I would say get the Zowie U2. And now to the final Zowie mouse that we're going to talk about today, which is the Zowie ZA13-DW. You see, the main difference between the ZA13 and all of the other Zowie mice is actually that the hump is the highest out of all of these mice. It's still a back hump, which is not really centered in the middle, right where the sensor is. It's more towards the back. But even though the ZA13 is the mouse with the highest hump, at the same time, it's the mouse with the lowest click height, like all the way up to the front where the clicks are. The height is actually the smallest compared to all of the other Zowie mice. And when you combine the high hump with the low click height and the overall short body, you have a mouse that is very much catered to relaxed claw grip, but also fingertip at the same time. I love using this mouse for basically a hybrid grip between relaxed claw grip and fingertip, swapping in between those two types of grips. Because as you can see right now, when I'm doing relaxed claw grip, because of the lower click height, and because of the lower length, I can push the mouse below my palm, basically. So I can basically use fingertip grip and relaxed claw grip at the same time, depending on how I use and how I move the mouse. That actually makes it my personal favorite mouse out of all of these Zowie mice. But obviously, like I said previously, you can use this mouse for aggressive claw grip or for pure fingertip or even palm grip if you have very short hands. But that doesn't mean it's more optimal. All I'm saying is that from my personal experience, relaxed claw grip with a hybrid fingertip was basically the best with the Zowie ZA13. So yeah, if you want a shorter, high hump mouse, which you can still use for a hybrid fingertip grip, and you basically like a relaxed claw grip a lot, go for the ZA13. Like, I just love this mouse. Now, when it comes to the weight, these mice weigh in at around 65 grams each, except for the Zowie U2, which only weighs 60 grams. Some people would say 60 to 65 grams is actually heavy compared to most gaming mice that are released nowadays. But most of the time, to actually achieve these lower weight numbers, you have to cut the build quality as well as the click feeling to actually achieve those weights. But when it comes to weight balancing, basically almost all of these mice have very dead dead-centered balancing, even those with a hump that is not in the middle, except for the Zowie FK2, which does feel a bit front-heavy actually. Talking about the sensor and the overall wireless performance of these Zowie mice, the DW series of Zowie mice use the latest PAW3950 sensor from Pixart. So it's basically top of the line, and with this mouse you can use up to 4000 Hz polling rate. The higher the polling rate is, the smoother your mouse movements look when you use a high refresh rate monitor in combination with that. In general, it's always better to use higher polling rates if the game you play supports it. The sensor position on basically all of the Zowie mice are very centered, very much in the middle, not too far in the front, not too far in the back, basically dead center. And yeah, the wireless connectivity of these mice is actually really good. Like, I've been to an event from Zowie in Düsseldorf a few months ago, and there I saw how wireless connectivity can be interfered by other wireless connections, by wireless devices all around your room, like your Wi-Fi router or different sort of mice, how those inputs can actually influence the input of your mouse. When they compared their DW mice to other brands, it was very visible from their testing program that if there's a lot of disruption coming from other wireless products, you will feel it in your gameplay. And with the Zowie mice, and because of this special dongle, it was not the case. Like, the connectivity was much better on the Zowie mice compared to other mouse offerings. And that is especially advantageous when you basically are like in a LAN event where there are a lot of wireless devices all around you, like phones, other wireless mice, Wi-Fi, stuff like that. And to always ensure you have the best possible connectivity, that is basically what you get with this really like huge dongle, but yeah, you can still use it for very nice charging of your mouse, because it basically is like a docking station. You can just like put the mouse on the docking station and then it charges ASAP, and you don't have to like unplug the dongle and plug in your mouse. You can just dock it in and it charges. And also, you don't need any sort of software to configure the settings of your mouse, like the lift-off distance, the polling rate, the DPI. You can change all of those by doing click combinations when turning on the mouse, and by that, it's very easy to swap lift-off distance and stuff like that, for instance. So you're not relying on any sort of software that could like interfere with other programs on your PC, or you're like in a LAN setting and you cannot download any programs. You don't have that problem because you could just immediately configure it. Now let's talk about the price. The DW series mice of Zowie cost 149 euros. Like, it's not cheap, but you are basically paying for a premium. You're paying for the best wireless connectivity, you're paying for the best build quality, you're paying for the best quality control, and basically the most refined shapes that are currently out in the market. Now, there are a lot of people who are actually keenly waiting for the other size option of Zowie mice that have already been released, like the Zowie ZA11, ZA12, FK1, FK1 Plus, the Zowie S1. Those are all basically the same shape, like the ZA, S, and the FK shape, but they are bigger basically. And Zowie has said that these mice will come out in the DW version at some point, but it still takes a bit of time. I mean, you cannot release like 8 or 9 different shaped mice all at the same time without using time to like configure the click mechanisms and the wireless connectivity and overall QC and stuff. It's like making a mouse is quite complicated, so you gotta wait for a bit, but I'm pretty sure they will be just as good as the ZA13, S2, FK2 and such. And EC, I mean, we will see what sort of mice Zowie will release in the future, because it might just be the right mouse for you. So yeah, this has been my review of all of these Zowie DW mice that are currently on the market. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked the video, I would really appreciate if you could like, subscribe, and maybe put a comment. And have a great day, and see you next time.